Imagine you are planning a trip. You check the weather to know what clothes to pack. You look at traffic reports to decide when to leave. You are making predictions about the future. We all do this every day in small ways. We try to guess what will happen next. Sometimes we want to know about bigger things. Will the economy get better? Will a new product be popular? Will it rain tomorrow? People try to predict these things too. Some people are called experts. They are supposed to be good at guessing the future. But is it really possible to see what will happen? Many people think it is just luck. They believe some people have a special gift like magic. This is not true. Predicting the future is not magic, it is a skill. Like learning to play a sport or a musical instrument, you can get better at it with practice and the right tools. Some people think predicting the future is impossible. They say the world is too complicated. It is true that the future is not always easy to see. There are surprises, but we are not completely lost. We can learn to make better guesses. This book is about learning to predict the future better. It will show you that anyone can improve their forecasting skills. You don't need to be a genius or have a special talent. You just need to learn some simple ideas and practice them. In the next chapters, we will talk about why predicting the future is hard. We will look at how our minds work and how they can trick us. We will learn how to check if our predictions are good. We will also see what makes some forecasters better than others. And finally, we will explore how we can all become better at seeing what might happen next. This book aims to give you the tools to become a better forecaster in your own life. 2. Why predicting is hard. It is not easy to know what will happen in the future. We try to guess, but often we are wrong. Why is it so difficult to predict things? Let's think about it. Sometimes small things can make big changes. This is called chaos theory. Imagine a butterfly in Brazil. If it flaps its wings, it makes a very small change in the air. This small change can grow bigger and bigger. Maybe weeks later, this small change in the air can become a big storm in another country. This is called the butterfly effect. It shows us that even small things can make a big difference, and this makes predicting the future very hard. The world is also made of complex systems. This means that many things are connected to each other. When one thing changes, it can affect many other things. Think about the economy. If one big company closes, it can affect jobs, shops, and even the whole country. These connections make it hard to see what will happen next. It is like trying to guess what will happen when you drop a stone into a lake. The water makes waves that go everywhere and are hard to predict exactly. We see unpredictable things happening all the time. Think about surprises in the news. Sometimes there are big changes in politics or unexpected events like natural disasters. These events are very hard to predict because many different things can cause them, and small changes can have big effects. But not everything is unpredictable. Some things are easier to guess. We know the sun will rise tomorrow. We know that if we put water in the freezer, it will become ice. These things are predictable because they are like clocks. Clocks are systems that work in a regular and easy-to-guess way. However, many things in life are more like clouds. Clouds are difficult to predict. We can see clouds in the sky, but we cannot easily guess their exact shape or where they will move next. Complex systems like the weather or the economy are more like clouds. They are always changing and hard to predict exactly. The world is a mix of clocks and clouds. Some things are predictable like clocks, but many things are unpredictable like clouds. Because of chaos theory and complex systems, it is very hard to predict many things, especially big changes in the future. It is important to remember this when we try to guess what will happen next. 3. How we think. When we try to guess what will happen in the future, it is important to understand how our brains work. We don't always think in the best way to make good guesses. Our minds have two main ways of thinking, called System 1 and System 2. System 1 is fast and automatic. It's like when you know the answer to a simple question right away, like what is 2 plus 2? It works quickly without much effort. System 1 is good for making quick decisions, but it can also make mistakes. System 2 is slower and takes more effort. It's used for more difficult problems like what is 17x 24? System 2 is careful and logical. It can check the answers from System 1, but it is also slower and needs more energy. Sometimes our System 1 can trick us when we are forecasting. For example, we have something called confirmation bias. This means we like to find information that agrees with what we already think. If we believe that the price of oil will go up, we will look for news that supports this idea, and we might not see news that says the price could go down. This can make our forecasts wrong because we are not seeing the whole picture. Another problem is the availability heuristic. This means we think things that are easy to remember are more common or more likely to happen. For example, if we easily remember news stories about plane crashes, we might think flying is more dangerous than driving, even though driving is actually more risky. In forecasting, if we easily remember a big event like a stock market crash, we might think crashes are more likely than they really are. We also tend to believe what you see is all there is, or WISIATI. This means we make decisions based only on the information we have right now. We don't always think about the information we are missing or don't know. When forecasting, this can be a problem because we never have all the information. We might make a forecast based on what we know now, but we could be missing important pieces of the puzzle. These ways of thinking, System 1 and System 2, and these biases, like confirmation bias and WISIATI, can make it hard to make good forecasts. They can make us too sure of our guesses or make us focus on the wrong things. To become better forecasters, we need to understand how we think and learn to use System 2 more often. We need to be aware of our biases and try to see the whole picture, not just what is easy or what we already believe. By understanding how we think, we can start to make smarter predictions about the future. 4. How to score predictions. It is not always easy to know if a prediction is good or bad. Imagine someone says it will rain soon. Is this a good prediction? Maybe, but what does soon mean? Tomorrow, next week? And how much rain? A little rain or a lot? To know if a prediction is good, we need to be clear. First, we need to know exactly what is being predicted. The words must be clear. For example, instead of "it will rain soon," we can say "it will rain more than 5 in London tomorrow." This is much clearer. Second, we need a timeline. When will we check if the prediction is right? Tomorrow is a good timeline. If we just say soon, we do not know when to check. Third, it helps to use numbers. Instead of just saying "it will rain," we can say "there is a 70% chance of rain." Numbers help us to understand how sure the person is about their prediction. When we score predictions, we often talk about two things: calibration and resolution. A calibration is about how honest the prediction is. If someone says there is a 70% chance of rain, and we look at many times they said 70% chance, it should rain about 70% of the time. If it rains much less or much more, their predictions are not well calibrated. Think of it like a scale. If a scale is calibrated, it shows the right weight. If a forecast is calibrated, it shows the right chance. Resolution is about how clear the prediction is. A good prediction is not always maybe. Sometimes we can be more sure. Imagine two weather forecasters. One always says 50% chance of rain. The other sometimes says 10% chance and sometimes 90% chance. If the second forecaster is right more often when they say 90% chance, and it rains less when they say 10% chance, they have better resolution. They can see the difference between days better. To measure how good a prediction is, we can use something called the Breyer score. It is a number that tells us how close the prediction was to what really happened. The Breyer score is like golf: a lower score is better. A score of 0 is a perfect prediction. To understand if a score is good or bad, we need benchmarks. Imagine a weather forecast. If we want to know if a weather forecast is good, we can compare it to other forecasts for the same place and time. We can also compare it to simple predictions, like the weather tomorrow will be the same as today. This helps us to see if the forecast is really useful. Scoring predictions is important. It helps us to know who is good at predicting. It also helps us to learn how to make better predictions in the future. If we know how to score predictions, we can all become better forecasters. 5. Two ways of thinking. People think in different ways. When it comes to predicting the future, these different ways of thinking can be very important. Imagine there are two types of thinkers: hedgehogs and foxes. Hedgehogs are thinkers who have one big idea. They believe that one main thing explains how the world works. They use this one big idea to understand everything. For example, a hedgehog might believe that money is the most important thing in the world. When they try to predict the future, they will always think about money first. They will see everything in terms of money. This can be useful sometimes, but it can also be a problem. Hedgehogs can be very sure they are right because their one big idea makes sense to them. They may not listen to other ideas and they can miss important information. Foxes, on the other hand, are thinkers who have many ideas. They do not believe that one main thing explains everything. They look at the world in different ways. They use many different ideas to understand what might happen. A fox might think about money, but also about people, politics, and feelings. When foxes predict the future, they think about many things. They are more open to different ideas and can change their minds when they learn new things. Foxes are often less sure than hedgehogs because they see that the world is complicated. Research shows that foxes are usually better at predicting the future than hedgehogs. This is because the world is complex. One big idea is often not enough to understand what will happen. Foxes, with their many ideas, are better at seeing all the different things that can affect the future. Think of a dragonfly. A dragonfly has very special eyes. Each eye has many parts looking in different directions. This helps the dragonfly to see everything around it. In forecasting, it is good to be like a dragonfly. We can call this dragonfly eye thinking. It means looking at a problem from many different points of view. When we use dragonfly eye thinking, we can put different ideas together. We can get ideas from hedgehogs and foxes. We can use the strong ideas of hedgehogs and the open minds of foxes. By bringing different ways of thinking together, we can make better predictions about the future. It is like having many eyes looking at the problem, giving us a clearer picture of what might happen. 6. Good forecasters. Have you ever wondered if some people are just born to predict the future? Maybe you think some people have a special gift, but what if it's not a gift? What if it's a skill that anyone can learn? This chapter is about people who are very good at forecasting and how we found them. It all started with a big project called the Good Judgment Project. This project was part of a bigger competition organized by IARPA. IARPA is a group that works with intelligence agencies. They wanted to find out how to make better predictions about world events. Think about things like, will there be a war? Will the economy get better or worse? These are hard questions that are important for governments and businesses. The competition was like a big game. Many people joined, thousands of volunteers. They were from all walks of life, engineers, teachers, people who were retired. They answered difficult questions about the future. For example, they might be asked, will a country leave the Eurozone in the next year? Or will there be protests in Russia? The Good Judgment Project wanted to see who was good at making these predictions. They kept track of all the answers and checked to see how accurate they were over time. This was a serious test. And what did they find? They found something amazing. Some people were much better at forecasting than others. We call these people superforecasters. These are not people with magic powers. They are ordinary people who have a special skill. About 2% of the volunteers were superforecasters, people like Bill Flack, who we met earlier. You might think that being a good forecaster is just luck. Maybe these superforecasters were just guessing right by chance. But the Good Judgment Project showed it's more than luck. Superforecasters are skilled. They have ways of thinking that help them make better predictions. It's like playing a sport. Some luck is always involved, but practice and skill make a real difference. This chapter shows that good forecasters exist. They are not just lucky guessers. They have skills we can learn from. In the next chapter, we will look at what these skills are. 7. What makes a good forecaster? In the last chapter, we met superforecasters. These are people who are very good at predicting what will happen, but what makes them so good? Is it that they are very smart, or do they know more than other people? It is true that superforecasters are usually clever. They can understand difficult ideas. They often know a lot about maths and numbers. This helps them understand probabilities and scores. They also have a good knowledge of the world. They read a lot of news and learn about different countries and situations. But being smart or knowing facts is not enough to be a superforecaster. It is more about how they think. Good forecasters think in a special way. One important thing is to be open-minded. This means they are ready to change their minds when they get new information. They don't just stick to one idea. They listen to other ideas too. They are curious and want to learn. Another way good forecasters think is by Fermiizing. This is like solving a problem by breaking it down into smaller parts. When they see a big question, they make it into smaller, easier questions. This helps them to find an answer step by step. Good forecasters also look at the outside view. This means they think about what usually happens in similar situations. Instead of only looking at the details of one problem, they look at patterns from many problems before. This helps them to see the bigger picture. Updating beliefs is also key. Good forecasters don't just make a prediction and forget about it. They always check if new things have happened. If there is new information, they change their prediction. They are always learning and improving. They call this idea perpetual beta. Like software that is always being tested and improved, good forecasters are always checking and changing their ideas. They know they can always get better. So, what makes a good forecaster? It's not just being clever. It's about having a way of thinking. It's being open to new ideas, breaking down problems, looking at the big picture, and always learning. These are skills that anyone can learn and practice. 8. Can we get better? We have seen that predicting the future is not easy. There are many things that make it hard, from unexpected events to our own way of thinking. But does this mean we are stuck with being bad at guessing what will happen next? The good news is, no, we can get better at forecasting. One of the most important ways to improve is through practice. Just like any skill, forecasting gets better when you do it more. Think about learning to ride a bike. You don't become an expert just by reading a book. You need to get on the bike and try, even if you fall a few times. The same is true for forecasting. The more you try to predict things, the better you become at seeing patterns and understanding what is important. Feedback is also very important. Imagine trying to learn to play basketball without knowing if you are making the basket. It would be very hard to improve. In forecasting, feedback means finding out if your predictions were right or wrong. When you get feedback, you can see where you made mistakes and learn from them. This helps you to make better predictions next time. The Good Judgment Project showed that when people practice forecasting and get feedback, their predictions get much better. Working in teams can also help us get better at forecasting. When we work with others, we can share ideas and different points of view. One person might see something that another person misses. By talking and working together, teams can make better predictions than individuals working alone. Superforecasters working in teams were even more accurate than they were on their own. Of course, there are still challenges. The future is never certain. There will always be things we cannot predict, and even with practice and teams, we will still make mistakes. But the important thing is to keep learning. We can use new tools and ideas to improve how we forecast. Researchers are still working to find even better ways to predict the future. So, can we get better at forecasting? Yes, definitely. It takes effort, practice, and working together. But by learning from our mistakes and always trying to improve, we can all become better forecasters. And that is something to be hopeful about.
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like. Write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.